When my apartment burned to the ground, I called my parents in tears. My mother sighed and said, "What do you want us to do about it?" My father laughed and added, "You're an adult. Deal with it." I thought that was the worst moment of my life, until 3 weeks later, when a fire investigator showed up at their house. The fire started at 2:17 a.m. I remember the time because I kept staring at my phone, standing barefoot across the street, watching orange flames swallow everything I owned. My couch, my laptop, my childhood photos, gone in minutes. The firefighters said I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow. By sunrise, I had nowhere to go. So I did the one thing you're supposed to be able to do when everything falls apart. I called my parents. My mom answered first. I told her my apartment burned down, that I lost everything, that I was shaking so badly I could barely speak. She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "Well, do you have insurance?" I said yes, but it would take time. I asked if I could stay with them for a few days, just until I figured things out. She sighed like I'd asked for a kidney. Then my dad picked up the extension. "Listen," he said, irritated, "fires happen. That's life. We didn't cause it, so it's not our problem." I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, watching smoke rise from what used to be my home. I asked, "So you won't help me?" He laughed. Actually laughed. "You always want to be independent," he said. "Now's your chance." The call ended. No offer. No concern. No "Are you okay?" Just silence. I slept on a friend's couch that night, still smelling like smoke. Over the next week, my parents didn't call once. Not a text. Not even a fake check-in. They told relatives the fire was unfortunate, but said I was dramatic and bad with money anyway. That hurt more than the fire. 3 weeks later, my insurance company called. They said the fire wasn't accidental. According to the preliminary report, it started from tampered wiring behind the breaker panel, something no tenant was allowed to touch. Then the agent asked a strange question. "Do your parents still own the building?" I felt my stomach drop, because yes, they did. They'd convinced me to rent that apartment instead of buying my own place. Said it would be easier. Said they'd take care of maintenance. And suddenly, every ignored text, every delayed repair, every excuse about the flickering lights came rushing back. 2 days later, a fire investigator knocked on my parents' front door. And that's when everything changed. The fire investigator didn't contact my parents first. He contacted me. That should have told me everything. He asked to meet in person. Said there were details that shouldn't be discussed over the phone. When he sat across from me, he didn't open with accusations or sympathy. He slid a single photo across the table. It was the breaker panel from my apartment. "Do you recognize this?" he asked. I nodded. I'd stared at it for months. The flickering lights. The buzzing sound no one believed me about. He pointed to a section of melted wiring. "This wasn't an accident," he said. "And whoever did this knew exactly how long it would take before it ignited." I asked who he thought did it. He didn't answer directly. Instead, he asked, "Who ignored your repair requests?" I didn't hesitate. "My parents." He leaned back and sighed. "That's what I thought. But here's the part that changed everything." He told me they weren't planning to collect insurance on my unit. They were planning to collect it on the entire building. My apartment was just the spark. If the fire spread like they expected, the payout would have been massive. Enough to erase their debts. Enough to start over somewhere else. And enough to never tell anyone how it really started. Except it didn't spread. Because I was home. Because I woke up. Because the fire department arrived too fast. That ruined their plan. But instead of confronting them immediately, the investigator asked me a question I didn't expect. "Do you want justice, or do you want them exposed?" I told him the truth. I wanted them to feel exactly what I felt that night. Helpless, ignored, and alone. So we waited. The insurance company requested documents from my parents. Maintenance logs. Repair records. Emails. My parents panicked. They started creating fake invoices. Backdated emails. Even a forged electrician's report claiming the wiring had been inspected. They sent it all in confidently. That was their final mistake. Because every document they submitted was traced. Timestamps didn't match. IP addresses pointed back to their home computer. The electrician they named had been dead for 3 years. When the investigator finally knocked on their door, he already had everything. They tried to act calm, polite, confused. My mother said, "We've been nothing but cooperative." The investigator looked at her and replied, "You've been very helpful." That's when he explained. Not only was the fire intentional, but now there was evidence of fraud committed after the fact. Lying to investigators, submitting false documents, attempting to obstruct an active investigation. Crimes layered on top of crimes. By the time they realized what was happening, it was too late. Bank accounts were frozen within hours. Their lawyer dropped them a week later. Friends stopped calling. Then my parents did something I never expected. They showed up at my friend's place. Unannounced. My mother begged me to fix this. My father told me I owed them loyalty. I listened quietly. Then I said, "You told me the fire wasn't your problem." And for the first time in my life, they had no response. 2 months later, the insurance company sued them. Not just denied the claim, sued them for fraud. Their assets were seized to cover legal costs. The building went into foreclosure. The neighbors found out why. And suddenly, the people who once dismissed me wouldn't even meet my eyes. The fire investigator called me one last time. He said, "You didn't just survive. You stopped them from doing this again." I hung up the phone and realized something chilling. The fire took my home. But telling the truth took everything they had left. And that still wasn't the end. Just tell me which way you want the knife to twist Smiling Face with Horns Fire.